Let's watch this one. I made a NES gameplay NES game. Okay, by James Channel.
Some original Nintendo clones are very small. This one almost disappears underneath a game cartridge, and it feels like there's hardly anything in it, which makes me wonder, can I make this cartridge into a NES console? Most NES games have a lot of empty space in the cartridge. The large size was mostly for aesthetics and a little bit of future-proofing. I had hoped for a game that used even less space inside the cartridge, but this is all I could find at short notice. I want to leave this in here and try and fit the guts out of this into this space here. The way I see it, if I have to throw out this part, it's not a game cartridge anymore, is it? It's a game cartridge case. And I want a game cartridge that plays game cartridges.
I see.
At first glance, it doesn't look too hopeful, but there's actually quite a lot in here that I don't need. Also, this console's brand new and half the screws are rusty. Thanks for that, AliExpress.
In the end,
really appreciate it. Let's start getting...
It's not that new of a concept, right? Damn, that guy is Erich. It's kind of like this shitty, like, small console that you could get sometime with, like, maybe like a McDonald's meal or something in the 2000s. It would be like this small, like, tiny console that would have one game on it. So technically it was both, like, one game and one game console.
Rid of things we don't need. I actually do need these controller ports, but hopefully they don't break when I do this. I think I'll remove this part properly. So what we've got here is this part in the middle. That's pretty much the whole console. This is just some stuff we don't need. Power and reset, don't need that. Ah, hot glue, it's already perfect. Except I have to remove the hot glue. We're gonna need that controller port.
He's so not gentle with it, you know.
Now what we've got left needs to fit in here. That doesn't fit in there. Other than all the connectors and switches and stuff, this is actually an entire NES console. And in fact, it's only this large because of the cartridge slot. If we flip it over, this here is a NES on a chip. It's a combination of all the chips in an original Nintendo, except for this one, which is apparently separate on this board, even though it's nothing special. The rest...
Like, not to state the obvious, but technology is insane, right? So, I mean, you know, it is an old console, sure, the NES, but the amount of game and the type of things you can play on it, all that from something that looks like this, you know, this looks like junk, right? Like shitty, cheap plastic that you're just breaking out, right? And yet it's a pretty crazy piece of technology. It's insane.
So the stuff on here is just supporting componentry. Now, where's everything going to fit? That, I guess, can go there. These can go... I guess first I'll just make space in the case. I'll get rid of everything I don't need. Hit me in the eye. I want this to sit down flat, but this bit here is in the way. I'm going to have to very carefully remove that. There we go, that looks good about there. Now we're going to need a hole in the other half of the casing. Just trace it around another cartridge. Chalk markers are handy for stuff like this because you can wash it off afterwards. You won't have to see it. Sorry, Mario! How does that fit? That's close enough, I reckon. I'm just sticking this in temporarily with blue tack so that I can get everything in the right spots.
It's all NES stuff that is
the leads on the controller port has enough force to shoot the solder off the PCB. Or that one just hit the ceiling. These controller ports really are not going to fit in there as they are now. Slim controller ports. I want the controller ports to go about here. Now, I really hope this actually fits. It does. If this part in here was too thick, I was just going to have to make this plastic really thin. A couple of bits of blue tack. I can't push it in. It'll push the blue tack out. But that is looking like a controller port. This is a scrap PCB out of a treadmill or something. I'm going to borrow the headphone jack off it. I can use this as an AV port. Then I can use a headphone to two RCA cables.
It's really, like, kind of sick to see the knowledge that he has, right? So being able to just cut into stuff and throw away what he knows he doesn't need. I mean, it's kind of insane. Yeah. It's awesome.
To plug it into the TV. On the old back panel PCB, there was this 5-volt regulator. This takes a higher voltage and regulates it into the stable 5 volts that this system needs to work. So that I don't have to use that, I'm going to power this with a USB cable. USB supplies regulated 5 volts straight away, so I just have to wire it in and I'm done. The rest of this board is going to be sacrificed to the cause. I'll stick the USB port here and the AV port here. And why not USB-C? Because I need to solder 2 resistors to make that work, and I can't be bothered. Oh no! That was a lot thinner than I thought. I didn't realize I was getting so close to this notch and I'd cut through. Oh no. I can't put the AV port there. I would have to cut the casing here. I have to put it over here somewhere, which means this notch is for no reason. And I cut through this for no reason. Now you'll be able to tell it's a homemade product. Now that's where those will fit. Don't look at that. My next problem is that this cartridge port isn't allowed to stick out past the edge of this cartridge, otherwise it won't fit into a NES console. I'm hoping I can melt all the solder on this board at the same time so that I can just slot the board down onto the cartridge slot a bit further. It sort of worked. Well, the cartridge port's a lot further down on the PCB now. I did lose a capacitor, the crystal oscillator, and this jumper here has come disconnected.
Way too
I really
advanced for
don't
me.
recommend pointing a heat gun at any board that you want to use afterwards. I've just noticed that
Yeah,
if I plug a
I would
cartridge in
assume.
now, it hits this chip
yet-
here. So that's going to have to be relocated. Ow,
This is gonna work.
ow. Relocating this chip actually isn't as hard as it sounds. Even though it's a 14-pin chip, it's only using 4 pins, and 2 of those are just to power the chip. Or just bend all the pins straight.
It's funny because obviously, like, as a kid when I had consoles, right, who wasn't like tech savvy in any way, right, I treated my console like, the most precious thing, right? I was so gentle with them. I would even be scared of like putting a sticker on them or something. I could never imagine doing this kind of customization, right?
Trim them a bit shorter so they're not taking up so much space. And I just have to wire it up in a different spot. This jumper wire is connected to ground, so I can use that. I'd actually use the original solder point for 5 volts. For the 2 data pins, I pretty much have to use the same points the chip used. There we go, should work just the way it did before, and now the cartridge can go past that chip. How are we looking for clearance? Oh no, my heating! I warped the cartridge! Well, I'll just have to fix it again. That was very much unintentional, and I'm a little bit disappointed, but it's gone back kind of alright-ish. And on top of that, we're still not flush with the cartridge. I need to get this right down here, and I think there might be a way. The contacts in this connector actually push down. It's definitely possible that I could push them down so far that the cartridge can't actually make contact with them anymore, but hopefully I can find a middle ground where it still touches these contacts but sits lower than the top of this connector. Well, this looks like it's going to be fun to clean up. I've got a bad feeling that I went too far, but if I push all the pins back up, hopefully the cartridge will grab the contacts. It seems like it could just. I did manage to cut a little bit close to some of these pins, and I think some of them might be not so good anymore. This console doesn't use any of the pins for the security, so I can borrow those pins and swap them out for the ones that I've damaged. That's what they look like when they're removed from the cartridge slot. Let's see if that grabs the cartridge. I think that does. I've got the cartridge port soldered back on now, but brutally desoldering it with a heat gun has caused an issue. Now I have to connect this trace that ends to nothing to this pin here. I'm going to try to scrape the green solder mask off very carefully. If I accidentally scrape the ones either side, it makes my life a lot harder. The liquid you see is flux. It helps the solder flow off,
your life harder.
This is 0.1 millimeter wire. You can see how thin this wire actually is. It's like hair. I really hope this fits flush. I think that's done it. Next, I need a reset button.
But then you've got the useless holes on the side.
Here somewhere. Couple of holes over here. Hey, there's only one hole. This slot's for the power switch. I can't have the switch sticking out past the edge of the plastic, so I'm going to have to dig around it so that I can actually get my finger in there. The other hole's going to be for the reset button. Trim the switch down flush. Bounce twice. Now it's time for our very first bit of hot glue. That should hold the reset button. That's the power switch. That's my finger. Now the controller ports. I'm going to do this with a controller plugged in so that I know I've got enough space. Probably going to have to cut some of that glue away again. So on the home stretch, it's time to wire everything in.
Stuff is just insane to me.
I hit an issue where I've moved the controller ports slightly too far that way and they don't fit anymore. But I think
I've said it before, but it's kind of funny that, like, in my family, I'm seen as like the technology guy, right? Because I can, like do stuff like update drivers and fix like small problem like that, right? But like this level of stuff, like this level of like knowledge is kind of insane if you need to fix anything, right? Like if your cable is dead, if something is dead, you can probably fix it yourself, and that's pretty awesome, It makes me think like my PS3 died in 2014, right? And I really wonder if like I could have fixed it if I had this kind of knowledge, obviously. Yeah. I miss my PS3.
there's enough meat. Yeah, easy. Just kill that off. Another chunk off that corner. And then it's just the hot glue that I only just put in there that's in the way. Now that I've thoroughly destroyed the controller port PCB, I actually need to kind of slot it back together to trace out where everything goes. So I'll just duct tape it, just like a new one. A nice tidy diagram always makes everything easier. Now I've got quite a bit of wiring to do. So that's done. Hopefully I got it all right. Before I go gluing all this stuff down, I really want to test this now. It's very difficult to do repairs with hot glue all over everything. Controller, name, AV cable. Usually I do a really slack job of testing stuff and end up in trouble. Oh, the controller's not working. This time I'm testing everything. I'm actually going to use a Japanese Famicom game to test this. This game's called Twin Beat. It's got music and sound effects and it uses all the buttons on both controllers all at the same time. So it's a good one for testing. AV on power. This is always the scary one. Power on. Whoop. Reset. Nope. So I just realised what I've done. I've got the import adapter upside down. This isn't such a problem in a real NES because it's got a shaped cartridge slot so that you can't do that. Hopefully I haven't destroyed anything. Maybe a real NES game? Oh no! It's been a long time, but I think I've found the issue. Have a look at this. I don't know when it happened, but I've scratched the board and I've taken a bit of the trace with it, trying out some new soldering iron.
Like, you can't be surprised, right? He seems to do this in a very, like, for the content, he seems to purposefully kind of do it in a, like, fucked up kind of way, so then he has more content if he has to fix something. I guess he could do this more carefully.
Tips that I just got in the mail. I think I chose the wrong one for this particular job. But that's attached. Red paint is off my desk. I must have put the knife down tip first. Yay! There's another break now. 2 more. Oh, this is getting better and better. Super frustrating. It's cleaning it off with some isopropyl and a toothbrush. Survives the toothbrush, it's probably okay. I think that's a success. Please don't have anything else wrong. For an idea of what I've been dealing with, this is the tip of a normal Bic ballpoint pen. The ball alone is wider than the 3 traces I've just soldered up. Please. Oh. I've spent ages going through this and replacing components to try and get this thing working again, and I've come to the conclusion that this garbage blob of a chip here really didn't like having the heat gun pointed at it. So I had to buy another one. I've just finished installing the new PCB, and while I was doing that, I came across a problem which may have stopped the entire thing from working and was definitely my fault. When I was doing all this wiring here based on this diagram, I never noticed that this PCB has 12 contacts here and this one only has 11. So this jumper loop here, which I added to this board, was actually shorting out the clock signal to one of the data pins. The clock signal stops, this whole thing stops. It's entirely possible that the old motherboard still works, but I have no desire to resolder the entire cartridge port and all of the wiring again. The moment of truth. It works. All right, wait. Controllers.
It works.
That one works.
Amazing.
Oh, I didn't choose 2-player. Reset works. Controller 2 works. Now it's time for the proper hot glue. Power connector. AV connector. Hopefully this can close up. And look at this. I've got spare plastic. Does that fit in there? Do NES cartridges bend or snap? They snap, but it's holding together well enough that it's fine. Shave off the edge to make it flush. I've just cut up the rest of the cartridge offcuts, and I'm adding some acetone. I want to try something. Oh, stirring with a metal thing in a magnet dish is difficult. This is a perfect example of why you don't use solvents to clean games. After a lot of time and a lot of mixing, I now have NES cartridge puree. I wonder how successfully I can fix this hole. Thought I'd see what it felt like, and now I'm regretting it because it's really hard to clean off. I've got a lot of NES cartridge stuck on my fingers now. And now that it's starting to dry, it's kind of peeling itself back off my fingers. It's not sticky anymore. I made a NES ball. Well, my NES ball is, wow, very light, and it's set now, so the cartridge is probably set too. I'm hoping I can very carefully slice the top off of this and then have a nice smooth surface underneath. Give it a tiny bit of sanding, but not much because the finish is terrible, and I guess it's better than a hole. The reason my NES ball is so light is because the plastic aerates, so once you cut into it, you get all these bubble holes, and sanding it just filled it with plastic dust, so now they're white dots. Now that I've got the NES console in the NES cartridge, I want to make sure it's still a NES cartridge. First thing, does it actually fit in the console? Wait a minute. Oh no! I've never noticed this before, but inside the NES console, there's a little peg down in here. So if you don't have this slot in the cartridge, it won't go down all the way. I've filled up that slot and there's a circuit board on the other side of it. I'll try and make it work. If I stick some blue tack on here, push the cartridge down, that's where the hole needs to be. If I need to go any further than this, it's going to be very...
I guess it's really like the process with this, you know, like, even though he knows so much, there's still constantly something he didn't know, and then you have to fix.
Very difficult because I've just hit the bottom of the motherboard. I hope this fits. I hope it clicks. It clicks! Yes! Does it work? Oh!
It's a bit fucked up.
There we go. It's just old. Wow, that was a good hit. My NES cartridge still works as a NES cartridge, and now we find out if it is a game console as well. Oh, this is hard to get out. There we go.
What a concept. What a fucking concept.
Plays game cartridges!
Alright. Respect.
How am I going to play NES Open? This can't plug in here. Well, I've got an idea. This is a NES to Famicom adapter, and this is a Famicom to NES adapter. I put this in here, and this in here. I should be able to put this in here, and and it should work. So if I plug them like this, then all I need to do is extend this to here. So I can use these as connectors, and all I have to do is a whole heap of wiring. Now I can plug the cartridge into itself, and then hopefully play, no, not NES Open?
It doesn't work.
Yeah, there we go.
It works.
For some reason, I just needed to reset it. I sure will try to golf well, Mr. Whoever you are. I've heard of plenty of consoles with built-in games, but I might have just made the very first game with a built-in console. What should I name this thing? Chuck me some comments with your ideas. NES Ball. As you can see here, I collect retro video games.
I have no idea that's
something
like
or
the
other, and
greatest
if
thing
you'd
I've
like
seen
to see
today.
everything that I buy, you can join me on Floatplane for $1 a month. I'll see you there.
Based on Floatplane, la NES Tech Tape streaming platform, not streaming platform, like video platform. Okay. Insane. I mean, it's like, it's hard to even fathom the level of knowledge of what you have in your hand to be able to do this. It's useless, but it's super cool. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a sick concept. Yeah, that's what I can say. An absolutely sick concept. Here's the link.